You know, before I talk to the press, you're not going to be able to hear me. But I want to, after I talk to the press, I'm going to thank all of you for coming out here. And hopefully the rain holds off for us. You stop the rain. So I also want to thank the press for coming out here on a gloomy Sunday. But we're here for a very important reason. I believe we have reached a crossroad in the direction our city should be taking. Under Mayor de BLASIO, we have more homeless than ever. Our taxes continue to rise, and it is more expensive than ever to live here. All of this while our quality of life fades away. I believe it is time for a change. It is time to stop dumping homeless families and individuals in hotels and motels throughout the city without support services and the prospect of stable, long-term housing, and without community input or involvement. Right. And what we're standing in front of, a perfect example. It is time to make New York City more affordable to live so that families can thrive and senior citizens can afford to retire in the city that they helped build. Right. Such as capping the city's and water and sewer bills. It is time to create jobs in every neighborhood and create incentives to bring back manufacturing jobs to this city. It is time to enact the Small Business Survival Act to protect small businesses, most of whom are minority-owned, against exorbitant lease increases. It is time to end the financial assault on the middle class and adopt the 2% property tax cap that the mayor opposes, which everyone in the state enjoys except us. It is time to ensure the viability of co-ops and condos, real affordable housing in our city, by creating a new property tax class akin to 1, 2, or 3 family homes, again, something that the mayor opposes. It is also long overdue to restore and maintain and enhance the New York City Housing Authority buildings, another example of existing affordable housing. It is also time to stop talking about education and commit to end the bureaucratic nightmare that principals and teachers endure and allow them to teach. It is time to properly fund school and expense projects so that students have up-to-date technology, are not sitting on broken auditorium seats, and have arts and music and after-school programs, much like we had when we were students. It is time to allow neighborhoods the ability to approve additional traffic controls in their communities to address dangerous intersections. Instead of de Blasio's administration's narrow-minded anti-motorist policies, such as their crazed rush to install bike lanes and pedestrian plazas, which do little to increase pedestrian safety. It is time to restore and enhance our public transportation system in all of the boroughs, instead of a proposed billion-dollar boondoggle for a tram along the Queens and Brooklyn waterfront. And I might add, it's called a bus. Why don't we put a bus there? It is time to fix our roads and infrastructure and end the traffic gridlock that encompasses our city. It is also time to stop the failed top-down planning approach in this city, but every resident to have a voice and a real say in what happens in their own community. It is also time to help students and families deal with college tuition and student loan debt by creating free tuition at CUNY for city residents and employees, and helping those with huge existing college loan debt. It is time to fix our streets, improve our parks, and enable every New Yorker quick and easy access to simple city services. It is also time to ensure that every neighborhood has a senior center, and every center be funded regardless of their size and how often it is open. It is also extremely important that we provide better services to our veterans who have given so much and have received so little. Finally, it is time to put people and neighborhoods first and politics last. For all of these reasons and much more, I officially announce my candidacy for the mayor of the city of New York. Now, since the rain is held off, I'll be happy to take a few questions, but as soon as it starts, we'll have to cut it.
So I gotta ask, does an angry white guy from Queens got a shot in this?
I think if you look behind me, you see a very diverse group of community leaders who have come here to support my campaign, my candidacy. So I think that speaks for itself.
Senator Avella, we're standing outside of this location that has been the source of a lot of controversy. Why did you choose this location? What point are you trying to make right now?
Well, I think it points to what I said during my announcement speech about the fact that the mayor seems to be only interested in dumping homeless families and individuals in hotels and motels, which don't have the services, are not appropriate, and certainly do not involve the community. What we really need to have is a real dialogue with communities and stakeholders. Because when you dump, for example, a homeless family in like the Pan Am shelter in Elmhurst, which is rooms no bigger than maybe 10 by 20, and you're putting a homeless family of 4, the city's violating its own regulations where you can't put a homeless family in a facility that doesn't have a kitchen. And yet the mayor continues to do that, and I think it's 2.5 years now that homeless families have been in that facility. So why aren't we having a real discussion? And we're not helping those individuals if we're putting them in places where they can't get the services. Let's have a real discussion, and so far the mayor hasn't done that.
But just to follow up, Senator, I mean, the conversation around this particular prospect of this becoming a homeless shelter became really, by some people's estimation, very vicious. There were a lot of protests, including a protester holding a sign that says "White Lives Matter." How are you going to change the conversation around homelessness? What should be the conversation?
Well, the conversation should be, how do we work together with neighborhoods and the stakeholders and the individuals that need the services and come together? There needs to be more discussion. And it also goes to my point about planning from the top down. This mayor does not involve communities. He doesn't involve elected officials. And that's not the way to govern. This is a democracy. We're all in this together, and I don't see that from this mayor.
Will you build more?
Right.
Will you build more homeless shelters?
That's a discussion that we all have to have. Of what do we do with these? How do we help these people? Right now, when the mayor first announced, maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, how he was going to have more people go out onto the street to talk to these individuals and families to come into the shelter. That was doomed to failure because nobody wants to go to a shelter because it's not safe. I suggested a long time ago, why don't we have a police officer in the shelters to make sure that people aren't stabbed, aren't hurt, that their belongings aren't stolen. And yet, what did he do? He went out and hired a private security firm. That's not the way to do it. People are not going to go off the street to go to a shelter that's not safe. But why don't we have a discussion? Just him telling everybody else what's going on, and you're going to take this whether you like it or not, is not governing. It's not governing.
But
and let me just make one more comment. And I think it's indicative of this site, regardless of that one person that had that one sign.
That never happened.
Even if it did, it was, one person.
It's a lie.
The issue is, people in this neighborhood have a right to say what goes on in their own community. That's the same thing with every neighborhood. And for the mayor to come out and criticize community leaders and residents because they care about their own community, I think is absolutely disgraceful. And that's why I said in my speech, it's about time that people around me, and these are community leaders, have a say in what happens in their own community. What the heck is wrong with that? Why don't we change the system by which this city operates? I used to work for Koch. And during the Koch administration, we came up with and people voted on in a public referendum, decentralization, to give agencies more power to work with local communities and neighborhoods to determine what was going on and where the resources should go. Somewhere along the line over several administrations, we've retracted from that. We need to go back to that. We need to be able to say with city services and neighborhood leaders and community groups and civics what they need for their own neighborhoods. That's my theme. What's going to happen in their community? They have a say. They should be determining what's happening. And until we do that, we're not going to solve the homeless problem. We're not going to solve any problem. Because you cannot dictate from the top this great city. This great city is made up of the most diverse city in the country. Certainly we're standing in the most diverse county in the country. Why aren't we listening to these people? They all want to be involved in the city as well.
Queens by the minute.
Let me.
Queens by the minute.
Press one
But you
second.
haven't said where you
Will you
would put the
welcome
homeless people.
or resist President Trump's elimination of the sanctuary cities?
Well, first of
And
all,
why?
define for me what sanctuary city means. I don't think anybody really knows what that definition is. Do we, when we have immigrants come to New York City, we welcome them. There's no question we welcome them. But we also have to recognize that we have a new president. Let's see what he wants to do, and let's see if we can work together. Because New York City cannot survive without federal and state funding. So let's wait and see what the new president decides to do. Listen, thank you. I'll talk to you each individually. I want to get my supporters out here just in case it rains, and I do want to talk to them. But I want to thank the media for coming out here. I'll be available to talk to you each individually.
Senator, where would you
Listen.
put